So hello everyone, welcome to our online info session for the Ashton College Diploma in Human Resources Management program. Really excited to have you all here. My name is CJ McGilfrey. I'm with the Marketing and Communications team. I'm joined by my colleague Rika from Marketing, who's going to be handling all of the back-end technical aspects of our session, as well as Rita from our admissions coordinator from Ashton College, and of course Christine, who is one of our instructors for the Human Resources program. So welcome all of you, and to all of our attendees, whether you're joining us on Zoom, Facebook Live, or if you're watching after the fact on YouTube, really glad to have you here. There are several ways that you can engage with us during this live online session. If you're on Zoom, we have our Q&A chat box function. Either of those two options, you can include any questions you may have. If you're on Facebook Live, you can always just drop us a line in the comments and we'll respond to your questions during the session. If you're on YouTube, you can leave us a comment or you can just go straight to email at info@ashtoncollege.ca or give us a call at 604-891-1249 or toll free 1-866-759-6006. Lots of ways that you can engage with us. And again, we're really happy that you're here with us. So Christine, welcome. Thank you so much for joining us today.
I am glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
Fantastic. So I thought to start us off, just ask a nice fun question. What do you love about human resources and what excites you about it?
I love that every day is different. I think that people and organizations are very complex, and I think that there's nuances to every challenge or every problem or every opportunity. And I find that no day is like another. And so I really enjoy the variety of the work.
Oh, I love that. I think that'll be really exciting for some of our prospective students to get to experience as well.
Yeah.
So this is kind of speaking to your background a little bit in education and career. Did you always know that you wanted to be a human resources professional, or did it surprise you somehow? Did you fall into it?
I had a career in retail management before I went to school for HR, and it was really interesting how, as much as I enjoyed working with customers and clients, I found that I was really interested in my employees. I really enjoyed the hiring process. I enjoyed training. I enjoyed coaching and mentoring them. And I did not know about the human resources profession at that time. I thought, I didn't really know what HR was. I hadn't ever been exposed to HR in a corporate setting before. And so it was early on that I was thinking about a career change, and I did some research and I found out about the human resources profession. And I thought it sounded like a good fit for me. And then through schooling, and then now, a pretty successful career, I feel like I've made a really good decision. So yeah, it was something that I think found me just as much as I found it.
Amazing. What about teaching? Did that find you as well?
It's very interesting. My grandmother was a teacher. I've got some friends that teach and instruct, and I think that teaching was a natural extension of my interest in employees. So I really enjoyed training and mentoring and coaching employees. And for years, I would have students who were doing practicum projects or co-op experiences from local schools come in and do work for me in the organizations that I was working in. I really enjoyed working with students. I found that the curiosity and the interest by the students really enthused me. And I also really enjoyed sharing my experiences. Like when I talked about the variety of work that HR includes, I found that I had tons of stories and examples to share with students. And so it was a really natural connection for me to think about teaching in more of a formalized fashion.
Amazing. Well, I think you're a perfect person to have this online info session, given your love for sharing your passion and for curiosity and all of that. It's really exciting. Again, for our attendees, if you do have any questions for Christine, we may get to them during the session, but if not, you can use the chat box function. You can use the question and answer box as well. We really want to bring you into the session so that we can, engage with you together. Okay, so let's ask another really basic question to just kind of get some context for folks who may be newer to the industry and may not quite know what human resources is. How would you describe human resources?
Human resources is all things people. So when you think about not everyone here has worked in HR, but likely everyone in here has had some sort of a job. So when you think about your employment experience and you think about your employment life cycle, you think about being recruited, you think about being interviewed and hired, you think about being onboarded and trained, you think about being coached and given professional development. You think about maybe the odd time you got in trouble and you got some performance management or some discipline. You think about your pay and your salary and your benefits, or you think about your career path, your succession planning. You think about even when your employment ends, maybe you've quit or maybe your employment's been terminated. All those pieces are what HR professionals lead and manage in an organization. So in addition to those really task-focused pieces that I talked about, HR now, more than ever, we have a role to think about equity, diversity, and inclusion in the workplace. We think about culture and engagement. We think about people more so as the lifeblood of a company, the organizational culture. And so that's a competitive advantage. Humans are now seen as talent, whereas before we were thought of as resources. So even the term human resources is one I think is a bit outdated. We're now typically called people and culture leaders, people and culture advisors. And so you even see the trend in the terminology that we use in our profession. But those are kind of all the pieces of HR that you might touch on in a career if you're an HR generalist, so you do a bit of everything, or if you choose to specialize, because there's also the opportunity to go into niche focuses. You can work in labor relations, you can work in benefits, you can work in pensions, you can work in lots of different spaces within HR.
I think that point leads really nicely into a discussion of what the actual program looks like at Ashton, and whether there's, that generalist focus, if it touches upon each of those areas. Is it broad in that sense?
It is. So the Ashton program is essentially designed to prepare you for two things. One, to either work in HR and industry if you're not already, or to increase your skill set if you're working in HR, maybe looking to grow your career. The other thing it does is it positions you really nicely to get your Cphr designation. And so that's the professional designation that us human resources professionals hold in most provinces in Canada. Here in BC, it's a Cphr, but I know that in other provinces, they have other designations. But what that really means is that through this program, you learn, some basics and some fundamentals in each area of HR that prepares you into that career. And if you are able to maintain a certain GPA during your Ashton program, you actually don't have to write the Cphr knowledge exam. So it's another great benefit of doing the program through Ashton.
I've talked to some other instructors and they've highlighted that as well, that it's
Yeah.
one of the most enticing aspects of the program for students who are looking at enrolling. Yeah. Great. So we covered a little bit of the general structure. And I think you also addressed who would benefit by taking the program, which is, as you were mentioning, people who are already in the field looking to grow or maybe looking to transition. How about your teaching style? How would you describe that?
Well, I'd say that my teaching style is certainly adaptable depending on who I have in the class. So I find that folks that are new to HR or already working in the field, I really like to involve them in class discussions. So I'll ask people for examples, what's going on in their workplaces, what are they struggling with, or what are they challenged by, what's kind of on their horizon. And I think that that makes learning so much more richer, especially for adults. I think that adults bring their own experiences into the classroom. The other thing that I really like about the program, and when you talked about who it's suited for, is that you don't have to be based in Vancouver, BC to take the program. You can be based anywhere in the world. I think that that's one of the great benefits about it being live online, is that you can access it anywhere. And so for people who bring culturally diverse or international flavors, I think that that's really great too. So my teaching style is certainly responsive to who's in the classroom. I think what I also tend to do is bring a lot of experience forward that I have. So in addition to the materials that we talk about in class, yes, we have PowerPoint slides, yes, we have a textbook, but I tend to bring a lot of examples in, what I'm doing in my day-to-day work or experiences that I have that relate to the concepts. I think that's a really powerful way for people to learn and make it feel more relatable, make them see themselves doing the work in the future. So
It
yeah.
sounds like that would keep the material really current as well. If you're bringing in, experiences from your day-to-day work and life, those are current modern interactions that you're having, right? So it's going to make it really relevant for the students.
Yeah, we talk about what's in the news, but every class we always start with kind of like a check-in or how are people doing. So anything that's current and on the radar for people in class, we invite them to bring it forward.
Amazing. So lots of engagement. We love that. Also, a trend that I've heard from many of our instructors for all of the programs and courses that we have at Ashton, which is really exciting.
Yeah.
Um, let's okay, let's talk a little bit about your expectations of students.
Um, so it's a professional program. So certainly I expect students to come to class not knowing all the answers, but being prepared and ready to learn. So I like when people arrive on time. I like when people contribute to class discussion, either by turning on their cameras and their microphones and talking with me, or very similar to Zoom, we use a platform called Schoology and Adobe Connect. And so students can either be on camera and talk over the microphone, or they can use a chat box. I think that that's really important. In addition to live classes, I also ask students to reply to, weekly discussion boards. And so it gives students an opportunity to reflect on what we've learned and what we've talked about in class, as well as maybe some of the thoughtful questions that I pose. So it brings an opportunity for students to answer a question and then respond to one another too. So I think that that's a
Mhm.
really nice way for students to engage. And that's also something that works really well to be done asynchronously. So you don't have to be in class at the time to do the message board. You have a week or 2 weeks to do it. And then that gives people an opportunity who are busy with school and work and life and other things to participate.
Absolutely. And of course, so many of our students have full-time jobs or they have families that they're supporting and are balancing so many different things. So it's one of the reasons that the live online learning part-time is such a great option for people. Why don't we jump over to an audience question, since we just had one come up. So Amanda is asking, how translatable into employment is the diploma? How is it respected by employers? So I don't know if you have any thoughts on maybe alumni, past students that you've had, anyone you've stayed connected with and seen how their careers have progressed.
Well, I think if you're looking to gain professional recognition or professional competency, the connection between it being an accredited program, so your ability to get your Cphr candidacy after completing the course, I think is a really big attraction for students, and I think is seen as part of the validity of the course. This course has been audited by CPHRBC. They feel that it meets the competence of an HR professional at that kind of foundational level. So I take a lot of faith in that. I also know that the program is taught by industry experts, people that work in the field, that are local, that are, well known and that participate and volunteer in a lot of spaces. And so I also think that that brings a lot of recognition to the program. And for people who might have international education but lack Canadian education, this might be a nice bridge because it does show that your own experiences and skills are translatable here into the Canadian educational system. And so I think there's a number of different reasons why people take this course, but certainly I feel it's very well received. It's well respected and it is accredited. And so as far as graduates go, a lot of my graduates, believe it or not, hold quite senior positions and either just didn't have formal HR education of any kind. Maybe they fell into HR and they had worked their way up to more of the senior level and they wanted some more foundational knowledge that they gained through this program. As well as coming out of this program, you're going to have a great network of not just local, but maybe even international connections of people that you've learned about through this course. So maybe that's helpful in job searching down the road. Yeah, I think it's great. I think it's been well received.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think that really clearly answers that. We just got another really wonderful question from an attendee. Now, this is super specific, so it's okay if you don't know off the top of your head,
Okay.
but you mentioned that students who get a certain grade point average are exempt from the NKE. Do you know what that average is or what that requirement is?
I feel like it's 70%, but I think it's on the Ashton website. I'll have to double check. You want me to look into that really quickly, CJ?
No worries. We can navigate that and maybe I'll post it.
Maybe Rika can help us on the back end.
Yes, absolutely. We're gonna pass that question over to Rika and see if we can get an answer on it.
I think the requirement to get, I think it is 70%. It's the same percentage you have to get on the CPHR exam to pass. So either you've demonstrated your competency at this percentage level through the course and through the testing and assignments and through the participation of the course, or doing the multiple choice CPHR NKE, the knowledge exam. So it's the same percentage, and that's why what it is. And I'm feeling like it's 70%, but I'm going to ask Rika to help me out here.
For sure. She's going to confirm that answer for us later in the
Lovely.
session. Awesome. Thank you so much to Amanda and to our other attendee for those great questions. Christine, I've got lots more to ask you. What do you think students will enjoy most about the course?
I think what's really nice about the course is you get exposed to a little bit of everything. And I think that that's one of the great parts about taking a diploma program is that you learn about kind of each facet of HR. So as I was explaining the employee life cycle and all the different places that people can go into with this career, I think that it offers people who are either in HR and might not be doing the full scope of the work from a generalist capacity, that exposure. I think that that's really valuable. Yeah.
Amazing. So the course description mentions practical approaches to contemporary human resource problems. Could you tell us a little bit more about that?
Well, if you break it down, really, we talked earlier about updated, informed, and relevant discussion in class. And so not only will the textbooks and the curriculum bring forward, real HR challenges that we'll talk through in class and we'll work through, I think it's that value-added discussion that live, engaged learning brings, especially when I'm able to answer student questions. I love when I'm in class and students will say, hey, you know what, this is really funny. I have a question. This is going on in work. How would you kind of handle this? And I'm always happy to give advice, but my favorite thing to do is say, okay, let's workshop this. Let's talk through it together. Who has experience? Where does this connect to what we're learning in class? And I think that that's where that blend, where that value add comes into play. And so when you talk about, HR challenges, HR is full of challenges. And that's why we exist, right? Where if it weren't for the challenges that keep our job interesting, what would we be doing? And so I think that that's the best part is about students are really welcome to bring that into the class, as well as instructors are always encouraged. And I know many of us do. That's what we focus on, right? We talk about our own experiences and how the work that we do and what we're talking about in class is related.
I love that you have that sort of group problem solving style. Do you ever get really surprising answers from the students or, insight that something you might not have thought of?
More often than not, I get students saying, oh, so that's how it's supposed to be done. So a lot of times they're going to tell me when they've had a bad experience. I teach labor relations. I teach recruitment and selection. I teach total compensation. And I teach part of that labor relations part is occupational health and safety. And so as we're talking about rules and regulations and best practices, I'm always asking students about their own experiences. And I find that students will have lots of stories. And more often than not, it's when they've had a really memorable experience. And sometimes it's not been the best. And they'll say, you know what? I didn't know that's how it was supposed to be done. Especially with recruitment and selection, students will bring forward examples of when they applied for jobs and they never heard anything. In this class, we talk about a best practice is that you want to follow up with candidates to let them know that you've received their resume and that you're reviewing it and if they're shortlisted or not, and that you want to be, open with your communication because as an employer, that impacts your brand. And so a lot of students will say, yeah, you know what, that's funny because after I sent off my resume, I didn't hear anything. And I kind of stopped applying for jobs there. I didn't really feel so good about that. And so for them, it was really like a full circle moment. And I think for them, the learning is even more impactful when we can have those types of discussions.
Mm-hmm. And I love that you're describing them sort of being on both sides of the table or experiencing, the recruitment role, but also the role of being a potential employee or someone who's applying, right? Lovely. Okay, so Rika has an answer for everyone regarding the grade point average needed to be exempted from NKE. The information is not currently published on our website. However, we have passed the question on to our program management team, and we will provide an answer in the post-event email to all of the attendees. So if you're here at this event, you will get an answer in email from Rika in the coming days. So wonderful. Thank you so much, Rika. Let's jump over to another audience question. Ola asks, are we going to be using Captus material? Is there going to be an online access website where we can have practice questions?
I don't know what, practice material, not Captus. What I might have missed that.
Captus is the word.
Okay, that's okay.
Could be a typo, but the
That's
second
okay.
part of the question is about practice questions.
Okay, so with these courses, anything that we talk about in class can be examinable. When I design the quizzes or the tests, the midterms, the final exams, I put the most important things on these exams. So there will never be a surprise. You'll never get to a test and think, why did we talk about this? And I only examine on things that are from the textbook and from the slides. The stories that I tell about, this time I bought a fancy pair of shoes and, whatever happened to me in that store, I don't test on that stuff. I test on the really important things, the things that are related to the competencies that relate to an HR profession. So although I don't actually publish practice questions, I could. I always do a review before the midterm and the final exam. I publish and post all of my slides. And once a student has completed their test and it's been marked, I open up all of the tests so students can go back and they can look to see the right answer and the wrong answer and which ones they got right and got wrong, so they can learn from that. So say on a midterm, we talked about a concept and they did not get the score or the answer correct. They can learn from that. So then when they see it again on the final, if they see it again on the final, then they are able to apply the correct answer.
Awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, the textbooks also have lots of resources, and certainly if students ask for extra help, I'm happy to help them out.
For sure. Ola, I hope that answers your question. If you did need any more clarification on specific language that you were using, you can always drop us a comment or throw another question in the question and answer box. So, Christine, let's chat a little bit about the job market and what are your thoughts on the current demand for human resources professionals?
I think that wherever there's people, there's going to be human resources professionals. And so, I see currently, I see in the future, I know that there's always a talk of automation and AI and things like that. I don't see HR as a profession that's going to get outsourced to AI. I think that if anything, HR professionals can be more powerful in the work that they do, being informed by data and data analytics. And I think that that's a trend that we're seeing. So I'd say the job market for the far future is great. I think HR is a career path currently. There's lots of opportunities. I see often jobs being posted at all levels of HR. So junior entry-level positions such as HR assistants and HR coordinators, which would be a position that I think would be appropriate for somebody with no work experience or little work experience who's a recent graduate of this course. Those are the types of roles that they could target. Mm-hmm. For people who are maybe already in an HR assistant or an HR coordinator role, by taking this course, it might position them better to move into more of a generalist capacity. And so there's jobs available in those areas all the time in HR. I think that the one thing I find very interesting about HR people is we often change jobs a lot. And I don't know, I wouldn't say that that's a bad thing. I think that certainly we bring our knowledge and our experience and our perspectives with us wherever we go. But I do notice that there's lots of vacancies in the HR realm. I don't feel like it's a hard market to get a job in once you have some experience. I would acknowledge that your very first HR job might be the most challenging job there is to get, simply because when you're in a role that you're expected to be able to advise and give advice on, it's hard to do that when you're coming from a place without experience. So that's why I think applied education, such as, at Ashton, where we're talking about real world problems, students should hopefully be equipped to be able to interview maybe a bit better, give some examples of things that they've learned from, and that they're able to apply their learning lens on their own life. So whether they've worked formally in HR before, or maybe they were in, like me, maybe they worked for Starbucks, but they had some people responsibilities and now they're looking to transition to HR, that might be something that they can pull from. So.
Thank you. Yeah, really rich detail. I love that. I also love that you spoke to, automation and artificial intelligence and moving forward. And absolutely, having a passion for people and being able to communicate and connect, that's one of this probably safest areas to focus long term, right?
Yeah,
it's really exciting. So what does success look like for your students? How can they set themselves up to succeed in this course?
Coming to class is a really big one. I mean, I understand that life happens and that some people aren't able to attend class regularly, either because of time zone commitments or because of, life happens. So that's why I try to find other ways that students can connect. So I always the lectures are always recorded. So if you aren't able to make a class, you can always go back and you can watch the recorded lecture. The communication board, those discussion posts, those are done asynchronously so people can kind of access them whenever they can. But really showing up and leaning into the class, that's success. I mean, certainly
Mhm.
at the end of the course, you're going to get a score. You're going to be able to show how well you test and how well you can kind of um, meet the expectations of the course. But I also think learning is important. It's more than just cramming for a test and doing well, but it's about being able to take these concepts and apply them to what you're doing in your career. So that's really where I see success, is when people are able to either write to me on LinkedIn after the fact or come to class and say, hey, you know what, a few weeks ago we talked about something and I applied it at work the other day and I had a really positive response. To me, that's success.
So, would you describe some of those qualities as being, very practical? I guess flexible with the knowledge and willing to learn, willing to experiment, try out new ideas in the workplace?
Yeah, so definitely willing to contribute, willing to
Mhm.
add to discussions in class, being present. So when we are having these discussions, you're chiming in through the chat box or you're answering on the mic. That's the value add. That's the difference between doing a course that's live online versus watching a YouTube video or reading a book. You have the opportunity to engage and to talk through your thoughts and to really work through those concepts. So this is what's offered to you in this type of a program. So I really like when students connect and take advantage of that. And they always do. We always have great debates in class, great discussions. I find that students are very supportive. And if nothing else, I tend to teach courses toward the end of the program. So I teach the fourth and the sixth class. And so by then, students have really bonded. They connect with one another. They're supportive. They know about each other's work life and family life. And so all the stories that are coming up, there's great discussion that happens. And so that's really nice.
Amazing. I think that really speaks to the networking opportunities and one of the nice benefits of the program, building those connections with like-minded individuals, everyone heading out into the job market at the same time. That's pretty exciting to have that camaraderie.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so we have a couple more questions from attendees. This attendee is asking, they're saying, I am a new immigrant to Canada. I'm also a project management professional. How does this program help me to integrate into the Canadian labor market? Do you have any thoughts on that?
If you're a project management professional and you want to work in an HR capacity or in an organization that's people centered or people focused, such as you want to work for a company that perhaps provides benefit software or employee engagement or employee relations work, you want to work for a consultancy firm that's focused on people problems, I could see that there would be a great marriage or partnership between formal HR education and a project management education. So I would think it would depend on how you would want to interact with the HR profession, but certainly it's very common to see HR professionals have PMP certifications. I think it brings a lot to how people approach problems and solve work and complete work. So I could see that there will be great complementary there, provided you wanted to work in HR or do something with HR. Yeah.
For sure. Um, do you see any other interesting crossover between, say, HR and financial services? Like I know there's a payroll capacity. Do you have accountants who take the course?
I don't know if I've ever had accountants. I know that payroll and HR is often combined, and so there's payroll designations. I know that some people who have done my course have payroll backgrounds. Some have like office administrator roles where they do a little bit of HR currently,
Mhm.
and they want to grow more into that HR capacity. So I see people who are kind of doing dual roles in their organization, like maybe they do a bit of customer service and a bit of HR, or a bit of office admin and a bit of HR. So I do see that. In my outside of Ashton, I do know it's quite common for lawyers to get their CPHR designation. And so I do see a bit of a combination between law and HR, but I have not had a lawyer complete my class.
Any thoughts on why law would be a nice marriage with HR?
If you're in employment law, certainly, yeah. So I see a lot of lawyers that work for, large or even boutique employment law firms. Having their CPHR designation is a nice way to acknowledge and to show depth of understanding of not just the legal framework when it comes to people practices, but all people practices. So
Mhm.
that's really helpful.
Awesome. Um, Another question from an attendee, uh, which I think we may have addressed a little bit, but you can speak to this. If I work, can I still enroll for the full-time course?
Um,
Um,
depends. So the full-time course is done online. Before COVID, I think that there was an option to do it in person. So the full-time course, my understanding is that it's is it 6 hours a day, or they're half days? So I think you'd have to be able to commit to being present to do that course. It's compressed. You certainly are able to complete the diploma program in less time when you do it full time. But even the part-time course is not, doesn't take years to complete. And the other part about the part-time course is that you can really easily flex it around work. So it would depend on your employer and what you do for work. I mean, if you are self-employed or you have really flexible work hours, then it might be possible for you to do the full-time. But if you're working full-time, I think the part-time avenue might be a better way for you. More manageable, more spaced out.
This sounds like maybe setting yourself up for success that way too, making it a manageable schedule.
Yeah. So I just looked here. So full time runs 8:30 a.m. to 12:30 p.m. Monday to Friday. So they're half days in the mornings. And I see that Rika's just popped this into the chat as well. So there's some details. So the full time program can be done in about 4 months, whereas the part time program takes a little longer. And then those are twice a week in the evenings.
For sure. Great, thank you. And thank you so much to our attendees for those amazing questions. Loving the engagement so far. Christine, I'll just throw another fun question at you. What are you reading right now? Anything on your bookshelf for educational purposes or just for leisure reading?
Oh, I wish I did leisure reading. I really do. I really do like reading. Right now, I think what I'm reading more into is I'm looking into some change management. So what I do in my day-to-day work, I've got some people projects on the go, and I find that I'm always open to new and different approaches to leading people through change. And I think that that's a capacity and a piece of HR that we're often leaned on for, is helping people. Not only do we craft and we create people programs, but also after we've trained leaders or managers on how to implement them and we've kind of rolled out our processes, it takes some time for people to adopt the work that we're doing and to kind of for it to become comfortable and for them to accept it. And so that's a big piece of what I'm interested in now. And so I'm always just kind of reading little articles here and there. And I think it's always nice to kind of bring forward in class as well.
Nice. I'll just jump over. Rika, do we have any questions from our Facebook Live attendees?
Hello, guys. Yes, we do have a question from Facebook. Someone is asking, is it recommended to have a specialization in HR, or is being an HR generalist better?
Christine?
That's a great question. And I have to say that it really depends on you as a person and your interests. So I think when you specialize, if you become a labor relations advisor or a compensation and benefits advisor or like a recruiter, for example, you can have really deep knowledge in one area. And certainly you can grow your career quite rapidly because you've got such a niche focus. And I think that there's always a space for specialization and expertise in HR. I have always maintained a generalist capacity in my career. So I've always done a little bit of everything. And I enjoy that because I enjoy the variety of work. But I do know people that want to go into HR. But for example, don't consider them people. They say, do you have to be a people person to work in HR? And I always say it helps, but it's not necessary. And so I know people that have a real curiosity to help and to support people, but they don't want to do it in a generalist capacity. Maybe they want to do it more on the back end, maybe as a data analyst or an HRIS business analyst, where they focus more on that data analytics and software side of things. And so there is a place in HR for everybody. It really depends on your skill sets, your strengths, and your interests, whether you want to be a generalist and do a little bit of everything, or whether there's one specific HR specialty that's a better fit for you. And I think that when people are first starting out in their career, some people do choose to specialize. Maybe they get their first job as a recruiter. But I do encourage people to try being a generalist. Try a little bit of everything before you decide to specialize. But if you've got your heart set on something, go for it and specialize if you want to.
Thank you. Wonderful. So we do have a couple questions around admissions. So I think we'll just jump over to Rita, our admissions coordinator, who can speak to the process.
Hello, everyone. Hi, CJ. Thank you so much. Hi, Christine. Just want to let you know this has been a very informative session. Every time I come through those, I learn a lot and I help a lot. When calls come through and when emails come through, I learn from the best. So I try to do my best to answer them. So my name is Rita. I am the admissions coordinator at Ashton College. My business hours are Monday to Friday, 8 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. I can be reached via phone at 604-891-1249 or via email at info@ashtoncollege.ca. And I'm here to talk to you regarding the admissions process for the HR program. Our admission requirements for this program are a minimum of a high school diploma with the transcripts, to be 19 years of age when this at the start of the program, and if it's required, the English language proficiency test. Now, everybody's process is different, everybody's situation is different, so I do urge you to call me or email me so we can go more in depth about your actual situation. All of that is found on our policy on admission that is found on our website at ashtoncollege.ca. Also, what I want to talk about is the two sessions that are coming up. The first one is the full-time session that starts January 18th until April 13th. The webinars are Monday to Friday, and as Christine mentioned, from 8:30 a.m. to 12:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And our next one is the part-time intake, is from March 2nd to December 2nd. It's every Tuesday and Thursday from 6:30 p.m. to 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And one last thing I'd like to talk about is the fees, which everybody asks about, of course, the most important part. The application fee is $200 for domestic students. What makes you a domestic student is PR or Canadian citizen, or $300 for international students. The tuition fee is $4,200 for domestic students and $5,460 for international students. And lastly, the textbook fees are approximately $900. And one good note is that the tuition fee can be done in 3 installments. So that is basically it from the admission side of things. It's very simple. And again, if you have any questions, please always call 604-891-1249. That is my direct number, or email me at info@ashtoncollege.ca. I hope
Wonderful.
that was informative, and I'll see you guys later.
Absolutely.
Bye.
Thank you so much, Rita.
My pleasure. Bye.
Love the clarity. And for our attendees, whether you're here with us on Zoom or on Facebook Live, or if you're watching on YouTube, please do reach out to Rita, our admissions coordinator. She's happy to answer any questions you might have and guide you through the process, especially around things like the English language proficiency. If you have specific questions about your specific case, she can definitely help you out with that. Wonderful. So, Christine, I am rounding out towards the end of my questions here for us. Covered what you're reading for fun. One question I always love asking all of our instructors is, in your opinion, why do you think students should choose this program with Ashton College?
I think we've talked about a number of different things. I think the flexibility, whether you can take it part-time or full-time, whether you can take it if you're local or not, the fact that it's online, it's cohort-based. I also think that the timeline in which you can complete it is quite attractive. I think for a lot of people who are already working in the field, who want to get their Cphr designation, taking an accredited program that they can also do while still working full-time is really attractive.
Absolutely. Thank you. Rika, I'll just jump back over to you. Did we have any final questions from our Facebook Live audience?
Sure, there is just one minor question. You guys might have covered this already. Do I need to renew my Cphr membership yearly?
Christine, can you speak to that?
Yes, you do. So as a Cphr member, you're responsible for maintaining your Cphr membership if you have your designation or if you're a candidate. And yes, you renew annually with them.
Great. Thank you so much for that question, Rika. And for our attendees, I just want to reiterate, there's lots of ways you can engage with us. If you had any questions that came up that we didn't address in this session, you can always reach out to us via email at info@ashtoncollege.ca. You can give us a call at 604-891-1249 or toll free at 1-866-759-6006. We're happy to answer any questions you might have. Christine, I I think that's about it for what I wanted to discuss with us today. Thank you so much for your time. It's been such a pleasure getting to hear about your experiences and getting to know you. I'm really excited for the students who will get to learn from you. Is there anything that you wanted to talk about that we hadn't covered yet? Anything that particularly excites you or is a point of interest about the course or your experiences in HR?
We talked about quite a lot, but I have to say I'm teaching the total compensation course that starts here in a couple of weeks. And so I look forward to meeting those students who will be taking part in that. And then, of course, if anybody has any other questions, I know that you can continue to comment on this and the folks at Ashton will help get you the answers. So yeah, thanks a lot, CJ. It was great to be here.
Thank you. And do you have any final words of advice for students who are perhaps unsure if this is the right program for them?
If anything I've told you today about working in HR sounds interesting and you're curious about the program, definitely attend one of the I think they're called demo classes. That will also give you a great flavor for what the online learning environment looks like. Give Rita a call, connect with our folks at Ashton to talk through a little bit more about the next steps. But I'd say go for it.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And absolutely, attendees, you can find our demo classes on our website. If you just check out the Human Resources Management Diploma page, there's a link to connect with us and get access to a demo class if you're not able to get to a live one before the start of the program. Thank you so much to all of our attendees for joining us today, to Rika for doing a wonderful job tech hosting on the back end, Rita, our admissions coordinator, for your lovely presentation and clarity on the admissions process, and Christine for all of your insight today. We really appreciate it.